to Doctor Who 50 years ago. I am Luke.
I am Nick.
And I am Ben.
And together we're going to try and figure out how Doctor Who was received 50 years ago and compare it to how we look at it now. See what's changed, see what made the show successful, and see how it applies to in the modern day.
The key word in that ramble was try.
Yes.
My God, we try.
At the very least, we'll sort of attempt a decent fist at it. It may be of no use to anyone, and it may be boring, and it may be like being in history class. But
Well, there'll be some people who will really like that, won't they, Ben?
Yes. Or at least they'll attempt to like it. 50 years ago, as of the day after today, when we were recording, the 10th of September, 1966, Doctor Who came back for its 4th season. It opened with The Smugglers by Brian Hayles. Because, yes, I remembered that. Because, Brian Hayles. He'll be known in the future, but not now. I believe this is his first story, in which he takes us...
Second, he also did The Celestial Toymaker.
Oh dear. So this is his second story, and he goes for historical. The poor beggar. Whereas we go back in time to see some smugglers.
What are our first impressions of The Smugglers?
Utterly forgettable.
I hated it. I thought there was nothing to the characters or the story, and I failed to be sucked into anything that was happening.
It is unfortunately boring.
Yes.
So
let's...
shall we now show you why we think it's crap?
And
Can but try.
And what we think someone 50 years ago would have thought about it too.
All 4 million of them.
Yes, this
Yes.
is the lowest rated story until some...
Season 23.
Yeah.
So you've got to go all the way up to
19.
Trial of a Time Lord in 86
Yeah, 20.
Ooh.
to actually get, and that's after the show had really been shafted. So here, this is only a year earlier they've been getting 12 million views or something like that. So they've managed to lose 2/3 with this serial.
Yeah.
You know that no one
In some manner or other.
Yeah, I mean, and it's autumn now, so you know the kids aren't outside playing. They should be.
Getting dark outside, it's time to watch Doctor Who. Why aren't they watching Doctor Who?
Oh,
Is it down to the story?
let's dissect it and find out why.
So, the first thing that happens is that we have the Doctor being angry at Ben and Polly as they're...
I was doing my old man things.
Because they've followed him inside the TARDIS.
They were doing a genuine good thing, and they're being lambasted by the old man for doing a good thing.
Yeah.
But the important thing about this is they have the stock, the generic. Oh, the TARDIS is bigger on the inside than the outside. But here it's so
Condensed into 2 seconds.
Yeah, I know, they sort of accept it too quickly, and also it's just so uninspired and so, I don't know, the scene is so underwhelming compared to how it could have been.
Maybe?
Yeah, and the Doctor's sort of like, oh, again, this has happened again, and they sort of like, oh, whatever then.
I think it's important that while it's... The TARDIS is being explained to Ben and Polly, but it's also being explained to the audience, but nothing of real consequence is being said that you can't get from just looking at it. So it's as though Brian Hayles hasn't really understood how the companions work.
Oh God, how do I start this story?
Yeah.
Brian Hayles is like, oh God, I've got to start this somehow with the ending from the other one. Splash something out.
Yeah. And someone at the time wouldn't have found that... I mean, we don't find it interesting now, but back then, this was during the Silver Age of comics, and during Stupid B-movie time as well. No one cared why things were happening. Roger Corman movies from the 70s or whatever were... we have a gorilla suit and We can shoot in a castle. There's a gorilla in a castle chasing people. We don't care why. You do not need that bit where it's explained to Ben and Polly how the TARDIS works, especially when it's just seen for them.
And also this sort of companion introduction had already been done so much better only just a couple of years earlier with Ian and Barbara. They have a really good introduction to the TARDIS. That's obviously the audience's point of view. But that scene is dripping with atmosphere. This one just feels so nothing.
It's expositionary.
Yeah, it's like you can tell it's expositionary. It's an exposition dump. In fact, the whole of this first episode is just exposition.
So the next thing that happens is that they go outside and they are on a beach.
Yeah.
And Polly says the immortal line, "This looks like Cornwall," which is a nod, a subtle wink to the viewer. They have gone on location outside London.
Yeah.
Because they have.
Yeah.
He is very correct.
And then they spend about a minute or two just of padding as she, trots along the beach, jumping on the stones or whatever.
Come with me on my journey.
The show is just going, oh look, we can do this. We can be on location. We can film on a beach. Hooray. Also, Brian Hales only came up with about 15 minutes of plot, so we have to put 10 minutes of film.
10 minutes of climbing a rock face.
Yeah, we have to have after the first minute or two, have to have 5 minutes of filler. Hooray.
They try and show off that they're in Cornwall, but we don't care nowadays. Would it have been impressive to someone back then?
I don't really think so, because
I mean, I wouldn't.
it's a change of scenery, yes, but
I suppose it wouldn't be impressive in general, but I'm going to think it does at least show that Doctor Who, being set in the UK anyway, at least is now not just in London. They've gone somewhere else. They've gone to the provinces, as it were, which is, I suppose, a good thing. I mean, Doctor Who has always been pretty bad at whenever it's set in either not just the modern day, but any time in England or Britain, it's usually set in London.
Yeah.
So this is, at least for that alone, people might appreciate it.
Yeah.
But
it is in a tent.
yeah, well, I mean, they have some very stereotypical,
Cornish accents.
yeah, well, some of which aren't even particularly Cornish sounding, but there we go.
No.
No. Yeah. One of the reasons that the Daleks on Westminster Bridge image, that works so well because it's Daleks in a place that the viewer knows, and it's
Really identifiable.
and it's that invading threat that is scary. Whereas there in Cornwall, it didn't have to be a location shoot.
No.
No.
It could have been on a studio.
Not for the story that it's set in, no.
No, it could have just been a studio
No.
thing. They could have done a studio beach and then a studio.
Well,
outside.
the beach scene adds nothing.
No, yeah, they could have landed actually.
In the church.
Yeah, in the church.
Yeah.
Or just round the corner from the church so that the guy doesn't see the TARDIS. But
Hmm.
well, actually, no, isn't the fact? No, the reason it lands in the beach
It
is
can get stopped by the sea.
yeah. So it's literally just convenience,
Yeah.
so that the plot has to happen.
More inconvenience than convenience.
Yeah,
Mm.
plot convenience in that there. Plot convenience that they're seen talking to the church warden. So there's two plot conveniences that cause, or inconveniences that cause the characters to get caught up in these events,
For
which
the
just
plot to happen.
which is just lazy writing.
The thing is about this episode on the whole is that nothing feels like it's there because that's how these people would have acted and that's how life works. It feels like we're in a TV show and so we need some drama and it's
So we will dramatise it, yes.
yeah.
Reality does not necessarily exist in this serial.
No.
No.
the next things that happens is that they go into a church and the Doctor meets the church warden. And in order to gain his trust, what he does is he resets the church warden's dislocated finger. The Doctor here is obviously a comparably educated man, since he has that knowledge and understanding of medicine that no one else around does at that time. So, what do we think of the Doctor being that educated doctor figure?
It's essentially doing what the premise of the show does, brings in a troubleshooter into the past and says, hey, I'm better than you. Look what I can do. Oh.
And later on you can contrast this with, they're both the Doctor is upper class, but also you've got the upper class authority figure in the Squire.
Yeah.
And he's incompetent. But he is an authority. The Doctor is not an authority figure. He's sort of like the rebellious. He's the
rebellious man with the intelligence to get him by.
But he's also upper class. So it's interesting that the leaders of both, leaders in quotation marks there, of both the authorities and anti-authority, or rebels, are both upper class. Even people who are against authority are not working class people. They won't be the leaders. It's always the educated upper class person who is the hero or the villain, or head
commander of the forces.
Yeah, exactly. There is that aspect of class to it. I suppose in the 60s this would just be expected. You wouldn't expect you wouldn't expect the hero of your program to be this working class guy. Now, they've got Ben there, but he's not the main hero. He's sort of there as the brawn, which it shows a difference. Like, working class people are just muscly and workhorses.
And subordinate.
Yes.
I think it's also important to point out that the Doctor has very worldly knowledge, which is what gets him by. Whereas the Squire at the end, he has no idea how to do his job because he gets the wrong decision. The Doctor has this knowledge that he's got from being among people. That's what his strength is.
Not judging books by covers.
Yes, exactly. Whereas the Squire, well...
does exactly that.
Exactly.
Ooh, they're strangers. They must have done something wrong.
Yeah. The authority figure is the antithesis of what the 60s stood for, which was that more left-wing hippiness.
The story continues to deal with the class consciousness of this episode with a confrontation between the church warden and a bald-headed guy named Cherub, who promptly tells him to stop stealing information and giving it to the strangers, and then stabs him to death, which is the only moving footage in this episode.
Yes, and that's interesting because clearly back then people felt violence was a lot more controversial, and I suppose it's interesting that this is not fantastical violence, is it? You don't see blood in the bit that survives, but
the knife is still sticking into his back. And
it's that's very real. So I mean, even now, it wouldn't be controversial, but people would be a bit sort of raised eyebrows, or some people would. So in the 60s, this must have been fairly controversial, although perhaps because no one saw it, no one cared.
No.
Until now. So, with these two gentlemen fighting, it's interesting to note that the church warden has renounced everything to do with Avery and the pirates and everything in the working class area. And so, by becoming a church warden and a Christian, he has essentially lifted himself up above to a sort of middle class area, and he is rewarded with this with a knife in the back from Cherub. So it's interesting to see how this class conflict, as it were, plays itself out in this 60s TV drama.
Oh, and that you need the upper class figures to keep the two lower classes in line.
Like the Doctor and the law-abiding Squire.
Yes.
while he tries to have elevated himself into the church warden as one of the leaders of the town, he is still this drunkard who hasn't been able to properly get rid of all of his old ways. And so it's saying that although these the authority figures of the time, they still can't fight that corruption that makes them weak and fallible and human, even though they try and elevate themselves above that. And the working classes who are in touch with that, who the smuggling cherub represents, can kill him.
Yeah.
Because he's stronger, because he's in that position of power and hasn't relinquished it in order to become a church warden.
I think
that's the power of the working class here.
And then especially as well, he started out, so Longfoot, the warden, started out as working class, but he can never truly become middle class
No.
because he was born as a working class person.
Yeah.
So there is no mobility.
You can't relinquish it properly.
Yeah, you can put on the airs and graces of a higher class, but you can't become fully. So there is no mobility.
But yet this is still enough to cost him his life.
So Cherub and a couple other sailors, they've kidnapped the Doctor. Squire's been useless with Ben and Polly, and so they've taken him away onto the pirate ship. But the important thing here is when they came to kidnap the Doctor, they didn't care about his two working class companions. They only cared about the Doctor, the seemingly upper class gentleman. And clearly, that just shows that they think he's in charge, and that only he is important. Because they didn't even bother to take the other two. They must be stupid. They're just the brawn, you know.
Not only are they stupid, but they're young.
Yeah, exactly.
old
And yeah,
experience.
exactly.
Doctor.
Yeah, young and working class, unimportant to them. Old upper class, very important. And of course, these are also working class people who are doing this, so it's showing that the working class people look up to the old upper class people.
Generation.
Yes. Yes. So then we get to a rather, it seemed pretty lame cliffhanger of
Drama for drama's sake.
yeah, sort of just like the whole Hook thing is so stereotypical, and then like, he slams Hook into the table.
So hard that the credits roll.
Yeah. Or
This man is very powerful.
yeah.
He's got a hook for a hand.
Yeah.
A pike.
It's
Don't mention hooks. No, don't mention hooks.
it's one of the more contrived Doctor Who cliffhangers there are.
Yes. But then this whole episode is feeling really contrived at this point.
And arbitrary.
Yes.
Yeah. It could so easily have not happened. That's never a good thing about an
A
episode.
Doctor Who episode.
Yeah.
As we know from today.
So, any closing thoughts?
This episode is interesting in the way that it tackles the authority figures. They are only there for drama's sake, but it's obvious what inspires their actions and motives.
Yeah, I guess it's not it's not got the specific intention. It's not meant to be there, but it's the subconscious. It's the assumptions of the writer.
Yes.
And in some ways, that's a better way of gauging what people are thinking at the time. It's just the subconscious assumptions that they make about people.
This episode didn't set out to do anything.
No.
No.
This exists to fill up 4 weeks.
Yes.
Yes, this is an episode that happened because of plot contrived reasons. Because we love episodes that are completely superfluous to the plot.
Yeah.
Doctor Who, everybody.
So.
As we've already touched on, this episode was not particularly well received at the time, as no one was watching it.
Yep. It was
0.4 million viewers.
It was disliked then because it was boring. It's
Meanderous.
now because it's still boring.
Yeah. So there's no surprise that it's probably. I suspect it's one of the least sought after lost serials.
It is most successful in its failure,
Yeah.
and it has endured for 50 years because it failed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
the only,
spoilers, this might continue into the other 3 episodes.
the only episodes I'd want less than this.
Well,
The
that we
Space
have.
Pirates.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I suppose it'd be better. Yeah, I'd rather have one episode of this than one episode of the Space Pirates.
No, no, I wouldn't, because this is so unremarkable that at least if we got the Space Pirates, we could be amazed by how bad it is.
Mm.
This is so nothing that no one would ever watch it.
No, okay.
But I watched the second episode of the Space Pirates a couple of times out of sheer masochism. I can enjoy the pain of the Space Pirates. This was very unenjoyable, Brian Hales flavoured,
Yeah.
boring pain.
You could only watch this if you were in some sort of sleep-induced paranoia,
Mm.
doing it for marathon reasons, or as you say, because of sadomasochism, or because of the other reason, which I've simply forgotten to say, which was what I tried to say in the first place. I've forgotten what I was going to say about the smugglers. That's how bad the smugglers is.
Yes.
I've forgotten what I was going to say about this forgetful story.
It's
Right.
unworthy of metaphors.
Mm.
Yes. So I will stop myself right now. Bad, Brian Hales. Bad.
Will this be the worst serial? Do you think? As far as I heard, the Underwater Menaces are meant to be pretty appalling.
No, that one's awful.
That's funny appalling.
It's
Yeah,
like Highlanders.
This, I think we're starting on an idea.
Well, I mean, this is definitely boring bad, but the Underwater Menace is going to be funny bad.
Funny bad is better than boring
Oh
bad.
yes,
Heard it here first.
The Highlands will be terrible.
but boring bad.
There's loads of failed comedy in that one.
Oh.
Ooh.
I
Yes.
don't like the moon base.
Really?
Surely except for the speech, like the Chapman gives.
Oh,
The-
that-
Yeah, that's a good speech.
At least you can watch it.
yeah, yeah.
And they have animated it, so
Yeah.
they've saw it worthy of animating.
You know, I don't really like the moon base, but I'm looking forward to it after watching this.
Yeah.
I'm realizing how much better it's going to be.
The only way is up. The only way is trout.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking. Yeah, because I'm having seen the 10th Planet already. That's the only one of this season that I've already seen before this. That one's pretty dull as well. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to Troutman coming along and giving the show a shake up.
Yep.
And hopefully knocking it out of the park with the Power of the Daleks.
Mm.
See you in 8 weeks.
Yeah, we'll just have to have a slog through the rest of the final 7 weeks of Hartnell.
Yes. So please join us for that. Like, comment, and subscribe. Tell us you hate the smugglers as well. Or at least dislike it, mildly.
Or if you love the smugglers, we don't care.
Or at least give us your good reasons, your
Yes.
good intentions.
So, check us out on Facebook and Blogspot or YouTube or on all of the mediums that we do this.
Yeah,
All
social
two of them.
etc. etc.
Yes. Subscribe for some more trips back to slightly boring 1966. Until then, I have been Ben.
I have been Luke.
I've been Nick.
Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.